Hi everyone. So my birthday was a month ago and I was very fortunate to get a lot of books as presents, and considering I haven't put anything on Instagram or anything about the books that I got for my birthday, I thought I would make a video showing you everything that I got. So one of the books that I got that I'm currently reading is A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. This was published in 1980 and it follows this man, it's set in the 1920s, who is hired to uncover an old painting at a church. And it's this man reflecting back on that month that he spent in the country and seeing it as this kind of perfect month that nothing else in his life has matched up to. And I'm about halfway through and I'm really enjoying it so far. Next I got Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I read War and Peace earlier this year and loved it. And I know that most people have a favourite between War and Peace and Anna Karenina. And I feel like Anna Karenina might beat War and Peace, so I'm very excited to read it. I have the Rosamund Bartlett translation, which I hadn't heard anything about, and then I sort of looked it up because I started to get a bit scared that what if it was really bad. But I've seen really amazing things about this translation. A few people seem to think that it is the best one. I think it's relatively recent as well, which may have been why I haven't heard that much about it. But yeah, I'm really excited to read it. It says, Anna Karenina is a beautiful and intelligent woman whose passionate love for a handsome officer sweeps aside all other ties to her marriage and to the network of relationships and moral values that bind the society around her. So everything I've heard about this sounds so interesting. Everyone seems to love it. I can't wait to read it. Then I have another Tolstoy, and this is The Death of Ivan Ilyich. I have it in the, what they called, like, Penguin Little Black Classics. This is translated by Anthony Briggs and I read his War and Peace translation. Really liked it, so this should be good. It says, laying humanity bare, these two devastating stories ask, is it possible to have a good death, and what does it mean to truly live? Does it say when it was published? 1882. It also includes Three Deaths, which was published in 1859. Quick side note, I was filming on my back camera, which I'm not used to doing, and some of the books get cut off at points because I can't see what I'm doing and I don't know what I'm doing. So if you're watching it and you're like, why is she holding the book at this angle? The answer is, I don't know what I'm doing. This is a very exciting one, which is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I read this last year in like 2 weeks. I loved it, I devoured it, couldn't get enough, couldn't put it down, just adored it. And it's currently my favourite book, tied with Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. And it's very sweet actually. My parents put a little birthday note on the front page, so every time that I go to read this I'll have that birthday note that I can look back on, which is really sweet. Unfortunately, I damaged this book. I got it wet. I've water damaged so many books now, it's kind of ridiculous. So that's nice. Haven't even read this copy yet. Already wrecked it, but that's fine. It's gonna get very beat up anyway because I'm going to reread this a lot. I don't think I've read this translation. It's by Robin Buss, and people seem to consider this the definitive translation, which is why I got this edition specifically. I can't wait to reread this. This is just one of the most ultimate tales of revenge, really. If you don't know anything about it, if you haven't read it, I think you should stay that way. There's so many exciting, adventurous things that happen in here, so I won't say anything about it because I don't want to give anything away if you don't know what it's about. But I think everyone should read this. If you haven't read many classics, this is a great one to start with, which probably sounds a little insane because it's over 1,000 pages, but is non-stop excitement. You will not be able to put it down. You'll become so invested. I really recommend this if you haven't read it. Next I have Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, and this is the 1855 edition. My boyfriend's family kindly gave this to me for my birthday, and I've never read any Whitman before, so I'm very excited to get around to reading this. It seems that the 1855 edition includes Whitman's own introduction, which wasn't really published in other editions of Leaves of Grass, at least not within Walt Whitman's lifetime. So yeah, very much looking forward to this. Then my sister got me One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I have Cancer Ward, but I haven't read it yet, so I'll probably start with this one. I believe this was first published in 1962. But it says, this brutal, shattering glimpse of the fate of millions of Russians under Stalin shook Russia and shocked the world when it first appeared. So this should be good. Then I have another Penguin Little Black classic, and that's Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. I have plans to read this very soon because I just hear non-stop amazing things about it. It seems like everybody who's read this is kind of obsessed with it, so I feel like this is almost a guarantee that it's going to be good, and if it's not, I'm going to have questions, but I'm pretty much convinced that it's going to be amazing. And it's pretty self-explanatory. It's letters to a young poet, somebody who was writing to Rilke for writing advice and life advice, etc., and this is what he wrote back. So yeah, I think I'm either reading this in October or November, so very soon, and I'll have a video on my thoughts, or it'll be in my wrap-up or something. Then I have an intimidating one. This is Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. I feel like whenever I see people bring this up, they're talking about how difficult it is to read and how intimidating it is, so yeah, I'm a bit scared for this one. It's also a chonker. I think this edition is 900 pages or 1,000 pages, so it's a big one. I'll probably read this next year because I'm trying to limit the amount of big books I read, because otherwise I would read nothing but big books. I enjoy them a lot. It says, reading this book is like falling down a rabbit hole into an outlandish, sinister, mysterious, absurd, compulsive netherworld. As the Financial Times said, you must forget earlier notions about life and letters and even the novel. 40 years since publication, Gravity's Rainbow has lost none of its power to enthrall. So, yeah. Hopefully it'll be good. It says see also Ulysses, so that doesn't give me much hope about how easy this is going to be to read. But I like a challenge, so. Then I have quite an underrated classic, and that is Hester by Margaret Oliphant. I don't really see anyone talking about this or reading this, but I don't actually know how I even found out about this, because I'm pretty sure it only has a few hundred ratings on Goodreads or something like that. So I don't know how I found out about this, but either way, it sounds really good. The reviews that it does have are almost completely overwhelmingly positive, so this should be a good read. It says that aging Catherine Vernon, jilted in her youth, has risen to power in a man's world as head of the family bank. So even just that alone, like that tiny little smidgen of summary, sounds really interesting. I don't know when this was written, sometime in the 19th century, I believe, but Oxford World's Classics doesn't like putting in their notes when the book was originally released, which I love Oxford World's Classics, but that really annoys me. Yes. Sometime in the mid to late 19th century. So, a story about a woman who rises to the head of a family bank in the 19th century. Fascinating. Can't wait to read this. And hopefully I will see more people talking about it because it has such an interesting premise. I feel it's kind of a crime that it's so underrated. Then I have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. What?
My Little Women.
Bob Odenkirk. Okay. Where was I?
Little Women.
Then I have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I read this a few months ago on my iPad from Libby, and I had to get my hands on a copy, so I'm very glad that I think my grandma bought this for me. I'm very happy that she did. And isn't the cover just like perfect? Like it has the perfect vibes. Like obviously there is a lot of thought that goes into what cover they choose, but I feel like this is one of the best examples of a perfect cover. Anyway, yeah, I read this a few months ago. I already want to reread it. I love it so much. It's just so filled with love and wisdom, and despite the fact that almost everything that happens in this novel is completely mundane, it's just non-stop fun. It really is. I love it. I'm definitely gonna reread this like a million times. So I'm very glad I have a physical copy now. Yeah, I love it. Then we have a book that I bought myself, which I guess you could still count as a birthday present, even though I bought it after my birthday. But that's Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I found this in an independent bookshop while I was on holiday, and because it's a little bit like beat up, they actually gave me money off, which was incredible. I was not expecting that at all, because I really don't mind like scuffs and stuff. It's gonna get in a lot worse shape when I read it. If the Count of Monte Cristo is anything to go by. Haven't even read it yet, already kind of destroyed the first few hundred pages. Yes, anyway, I had been on the hunt for this edition because I don't really like the new cover of the Penguin Les Miserables. It's just not as nice to me, and I really do like the artwork that they've chosen for this edition. So I was very happy when I saw this, because it's been kind of hard to find online. Everywhere seems to be selling the new edition. So excited about that, very excited to read. I don't know much about Les Miserables. I watched like an hour of the movie with Anne Hathaway. I was gonna say the man's name, but I've forgotten his name. Who's the man in The Nice Guys? With Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
No, the other one.
Oh, Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. Yes. I've watched about an hour of the Russell Crowe movie in French at school, and I don't remember much about it at all. But I cannot wait to read this. This is one of the books that I'm most excited to read. I'll also likely read it next year, because this is a chunky one to fit in the next few months of my TBR, considering I've already pretty much got my TBR laid out for the rest of the year. I like to be organised, but yeah, so excited, so excited. Okay, so now on to the non-fiction books I got for my birthday. The first one being Disability Visibility by Alice Wong. This is a collection of like 30 or over 30 essays by different disabled people and their experiences about being disabled. I haven't read any non-fiction about being disabled, which is very wrong of me. I'm disabled myself. I don't know why it's taken me this long to pick up a non-fiction book about disability, but I'm very excited to read this. I've heard amazing things about it. The cover design is completely gorgeous, and yeah, very excited to get around to this, which I've said a million times, but it's very true. I'm very excited about all of these. I have already kind of set out all of my non-fiction picks for this year, so I will probably read this one next year, early next year, because I really do want to read it as soon as possible. Next I have The Black Count by Tom Rees. This basically goes into the inspiration behind The Count of Monte Cristo, as well as a bit of The Three Musketeers, I believe, because I think his Alexander Dumas' father inspired both of those, but primarily the Count of Monte Cristo. So Alexander Dumas' father kind of faced a slightly similar situation to the character in the Count of Monte Cristo, trying to keep things vague because I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't read it. But as soon as I found out that Alexander Dumas' father was kind of an inspiration behind the book, I really wanted to read this. So I'll probably read this either before or after I reread the Count of Monte Cristo, whenever that is. Yeah, I've been desperate to read this since I first read the book. So yes, this is going to be very interesting. Next, my brother and sister-in-law got me The Principles of Communism. I've already read this. It's very short. It's about 50 pages, and it's kind of in a question and answer format, and it's just going over the principles of communism, all of the frequently asked questions, and kind of laying the basics of communism out. It's quite straightforward. It was interesting. I would recommend this for anybody who wants to understand the basics of communism, what it's all about, what the ideals, goals, beliefs are. Yeah, very quick, very short, very simple. Then I have Are Prisons Obsolete by Angela Davis. I've only read Women, Race and Class by Angela Davis, but she has so many books that I want to read. And this is one, even though I've already set out what nonfiction books I want to read this year, I kind of want to sneak this one in. I really want to read it soon. I don't know much about the prison abolition movement, so I thought this would be a good place to start. So yeah, I've been wanting to read this for quite a long time now, and now that I have it, I want to read it right away. So the last nonfiction book I have is Why Read the Classics by Italo Calvino. What makes a classic? Why read the classics? It contains 36 essays apparently. Very excited for this one as well. I don't know when I'll read this. If I decide I'm reading more nonfiction this year, then I will also sneak this one in. If not, I will read it early next year. Yeah. So the last and smallest category I have is contemporary fiction, starting with 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, which is apparently a part of Reese's book club, so that's cool. I don't think I've read any Reese Witherspoon book club picks, so I guess this will be my first. Yes, I wanted to read this one even though I don't read that many contemporary books, well, contemporary fiction books, as opposed to like classics and nonfiction. There are some that catch my eye, and this is one of them. I've heard amazing things about it. So 7 Days to Fall in Love, 15 Years to Forget, and 7 Days to Get It All Back Again. And this is a romance book, and it seems quite different to other contemporary romance books that I have read, so yeah, I'm interested to see what it's all about. Another book my sister got me is No Exit by Taylor Adams. Whenever I'm like looking at a list or watching a video of people's favourite recent thriller books, this is always in there. And the plot seems really interesting. It says, a kidnapped little girl locked in a stranger's van. No help for miles, what would you do? And when I heard that plot summary when I was watching people's videos, looking at their lists, etc., that really stood out to me as particularly interesting plot amongst the like other thrillers that people were talking about. And everyone that's read it seems to have enjoyed it. So the next time that I'm looking for a contemporary thriller, I'm definitely going to pick this up, and hopefully it'll be one that I won't be able to put down. Lastly, my brother and sister-in-law also got me Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is kind of an old book on my TBR, as in like it's been on my TBR the longest. I've been I've been hearing amazing things about it for years now. I think it's historical fiction. I don't know if it's also romance. It says, in the perilous days of World Wars I and II, the gods held the fates and the hearts of 4 mortals in their hands. So maybe it is also romance. I think it's young adult too, and I don't read any young adult really. So it'll be really interesting to see what I think of this one, because it's kind of blending a lot of categories I don't read very often: contemporary, historical fiction, young adult, but rave reviews. So hopefully I will enjoy it. So that was everything I got for my birthday. I was incredibly fortunate. Thank you to everybody who did get me something. It was very kind of you. I should have another haul video coming out either this month or next month, and it'll be secondhand books that I got recently. And I will obviously have a October TBR and September wrap up coming out. So yeah.